I saw a fun fact on Tuesdays that didn't really make any sense. It said babies are more likely to be born on a Tuesday, but what's the alternative? Adults being born on a Tuesday? What's going on, YouTube? It is after Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a very momentous time because that means it's our Tuesday vendor flip, meaning that all of the goodness and gracious things that you can get, starting with our first vendor here inside the Infinite Archive, inside of Apocrypha, has flipped. And importantly, too, scribing is now going to be a base game feature come the new update, but we have to start off with the first lead, which is this from the Saint Seducer. Now, the Saint Seducer lead that's in question comes from the Sheogorath's Tongues Delve boss, so probably not one that you're going to be super stressed to get. The Saint Seducer mythic, though, is a fantastic mythic. Would definitely encourage you to get it if you're interested in some PvPing, but not one that you would buy with Infinite Archival Fortunes on this. Then next up, we have the Inert Anomaly Inlays, which some of those words were probably pronounced correctly. They just come from every world boss in a zone that is like Voldemort. Not saying it. I know a lot of you guys are probably excited, like, oh, he's got to say it. It's coming up here. It's this word right here. They're in that zone. You just kill world bosses there. You get that Thracian Stranglers mythic. Thracian Stranglers, I think, is fine. The problem is its best utilization. Yeah, there's some crazy score pushing stuff you can do, but normally its best utilization just boils down to farming because the more stuff you kill, the more damage you deal, but the weaker you become. So, potato, potato. Next up, we have the Blind Shoulder, which I'm making sure to model here this week for you. Actually does look pretty cool in my opinion, but doesn't have any value. And this one's going to be a little surprising. There's none listed. So it's priceless. So there's a priceless item in the vendor. Can you imagine if I put that in the title of the video? There would be riots in the street. Overall, though, currently not any listed on PC. What's its value going to be is very hard to say. I would say intrinsically it's up to you. If you want to look like this and have it, it's probably going to be at least 6 months to a year before it's farmable again, and that's being pretty conservative. Or lenient, rather. It's going to be probably potentially a little bit longer. But then we have the Alinor Trunk, Breton Armoire, and Necrom Cart. Now, a lot of people love these items, rightfully so, but the only way you can make money from these, and obviously, Jake, why are you talking about a money-making perspective? Well, if you look at this and you like it, you don't need my opinion. My opinion is only, could you resell these in the future? The answer is potentially. I do like the Trunk. The Armoire is definitely probably on the riskier side to money make. And the Necrom cart is pretty decent. We don't have too many carts with, different tiers for merchants and stuff. So overall, not terrible, but it does cost a lot of heartwoods, funerary wrappings, bast, regulus, mask. They're not cheap to make, so you're going to have to charge pretty well. The problem is that people are just going to buy them right now if they want to make them for themselves, and they're going to cut out the middleman. So that's what makes selling furniture hard. But if you want to get it for yourself, go for it. Next up, we have Stormhaven Treasure Maps, literally the easiest skip in the world. Yes, there's some okay sets from Stormhaven, but you're not making any sort of gold or getting any sort of values in your archival fortunes with Stormhaven Treasure Maps. Companion weapons, though, is probably the biggest gamble in the game, because I remember, and I use this as an example, my boy David, you guys may know him as the guy with 1.5 thumbs. He is a great grinder, and he asked me, he said, Jake, I got some gold. Can you help find me a companion shield for a tank? And there was one listed in the entirety of the Xbox Mega Server. So companion weapons are the riskiest. And why is that? Well, the odds of you getting both the weapon you need with a trait that is concurrently decent with it is pretty rare. So it's a great gamble when it pays off, and it's the worst gamble when it doesn't. Then we have the book A New Cult Arises. Is it talking about the new cult that's going to be coming in the next expansion? Man, I should probably read this book. Maybe there's something in there. And On Tracks Perilous. That's actually just talking about roller coasters. If you don't believe me, you can read the book. Next up, we have Interrupt, Not Back, and Leeching Thirst. Now, a lot of people want a scribing guide for me. I promise you I will make it at some point, because they're like, Jake, why are certain scripts good? Why are they not? Well, a script is basically just changing a thing to do something else. So, for example, instead of stunning somebody, I now knock them back. Or instead of dealing additional damage to them, I knock them back. So think to yourself, oh, do I want to interrupt enemies? Some of you may, because interrupting people can be decent for PvP. Not necessarily as good for PvE, although there are some mechanics that can be helpful if you interrupt them. But overall, none of these are really any good in the sense that you don't need to go out and purchase any of these for yourself. But The second vendor will be ones that you can purchase with gold. And again, scribing is free when Q3 comes out in the summer. Then we have the Cartographer's Belt, which is literally a tradable item. It comes from a fragment that you can purchase on the market, or you can go farm public dungeons for it. Most notably, Fragment of the Hearthstone, but Fragment of the Hearthstone literally just comes from the final boss in a Craglorn delve. I don't know how much you value that. Yes, Craglorn stuff is a little bit harder, but it's really not that hard in the grand scheme of things. And then we wrap up with our unreliable archival map, which gives us our shattered mirror maze face marks. Talked about these bajillion times. If you want them, obviously great. You can easily go out and farm the Infinite Archive, but no. Reason for that is this is literally what they look like. They look like me when I was a teenager, and I, didn't have a good skincare routine. Truthfully, I don't know how much we've really improved. Next up, we are inside of the Scholarium, inside of Avaya. So this is the area in which you will go once you have the scribing unlocked, or the actual expansion that includes scribing. So once this comes around in June, you'll be able to come here and join me inside of this little vendor here who sells those scripts, but they sell them actually with gold. So it makes it significantly better. Brutality and sorcery, not as necessary in the day and age in which we live in. It used to be really popular to use brutality and sorcery on sets, but that was many moons ago. Not an essential one. Should you buy it with gold? I generally encourage you to do so. If you get a duplicate, you can literally sell it back for 1,000 gold. And you never want to be in a situation where you're like, wow, I really wish I had one. And you're not using a premium currency. You're just using gold. Lifesteal, similar concept. Probably not something that majority of you are going to be using. But if you do need to use it, it's definitely one that you may want to have. But flame damage is one that everybody should have, because there's a good chance that you're going to use it in builds in the future, the past, the present. And it's going to be really good for you to have. I remember I needed flame damage for many months before I got it from a drop. I ended up actually buying it from a vendor. I actually spent archival fortunes for it, but it saved me weeks of getting it because I didn't get it from a daily quest. But you do find yourself doing daily quests a lot and getting scripts. Obviously, it's a little less risky for you. So in that situation, you get a little more risk aversion that you can go with. Class Mastery is static. This is here. It only will become unlockable once you have the Class Mastery unlocked. By having signature scripts. It's just something you pick up, so don't worry about it too much. And then we have War Mage's Defense. This is a pretty good one in my opinion for PvP. I don't know if it gets a lot of utilization for tanking, but the damage reduction that it comes with is pretty nice. But it's certainly not meta by any standard, so it's going to cost you a lot more gold if you don't have it unlocked on another character. Should you buy it? Not necessarily one that's used enough to where it's justifiable. If say you only have 100,000 to 200,000 gold to your name, not justifiable. If you got 1 million plus gold to your name, then just snatch it up in case you need it in the future. And finally, we have the TLDR vendor inside the Lambient Passage inside the Imperial City. Now, this TLDR vendor, if you ever have trouble finding it, use our website linked below. Give you some extra resources. And we start with Cyrodiil's Crest. Now, it gives you stam recovery, max health, max health. When you block, you heal for 45, 65 health. This effect only can occur once every 4 seconds, but it scales off your max health. So if I had more health, I would get more return from this. This set's not that great. Health, yeah, it's good, but it is quantified as a heal, which means it would be affected by things like Battle Spirit, depending on how you would build it. You have to use your max health stat, which a lot of people like to do, but I think in the new meta, max health builds are going to kind of go a bit of the wayside, and we're going to see more max stat and max weapon and spell damage builds, or even max crit builds. So I don't see max health really being on the up and up per se. Overall, 4 seconds is also not very good either. It might seem like that's pretty frequent, but in 4 seconds, I mean, as long as you got the latency to do it, you can deal quite a bit of damage and attacks to somebody. And that also requires you to time a block, to get it. So you can't just sit and block to kill somebody the whole time, and you're only getting back a teensy-weensy little bit of health. Next up, fun fact, is a set that was nerfed. This actually used to be 50%. It's Vanguard Challenge. Now, when you taunt an enemy player, they deal 35% less damage to all other players, but 35% more damage to you for 15 seconds. This used to actually be 50%, so that means it was good at some point that it felt like it had to be nerfed, which is ironic because nobody really used it back then either. This set's an easy skip. It's like a 5 out of 10. It's an average set. You're not going to be doing a whole lot. Same with Cyrodiil's Crest. I would give this more of like a 6.5. Like, yeah, health builds. Like, if health builds really take off and you could push some crazy stats with that, maybe. But overall, both of them are easy skips. Next up, we have one that you may want to consider, and it's the Volungard Etching Tools. And I realize it's Volenfell Etching Tools as the screen flipped, because it comes from Volenfell. Who would have thought? And it comes from the last boss. Now, Volenfell is not a dungeon that takes an exceptional amount of time. However, if you find yourself running it 3, 4, 5, 6 times, spending only 25k Telvar could be a decent use of your time. And this is a mythic that's actually very, very popular. But it's also one that's not easy to get because you have to farm the Halls of Fabrication. And people are not super interested in farming the Halls of Fabrication very often. And then when you do, you have to actually get the drop, which is a whole other kit and caboodle you got to deal with. So great mythic, decent lead option. But if you do go down the rabbit hole getting this mythic, you're going to have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. Next up is something that I hate leads that drop from, and that is the Winter's Pelt Lining. Now, this one can come from any NPC and boss in a delve, and I feel like anytime they say that, it doesn't drop from any of them, and the odds are like 0.01%. So you're just sitting there farming for a while. All that to say, though, you're probably only going to farm it like 30 to 45 minutes. You may get it even immediately. 25k Talvar is at least 100k plus gold in value. So meaning, would you rather save 30 minutes of farming and lose, the value of 100 plus k gold? Probably not. But I will say that is one of my least favorite drops when it's like, oh, it could drop from anybody. And it's like, oh my gosh. Then we have Stormhaven treasure maps, which, fun fact, you could skip again. Same even when it's for Telvar. Then we have the rings of the necklaces we talked about above. Either one of them were worth purchasing. And I just want to point out, I know some people in the comments are like, Jake, you gave Cyrodiil's Crest a 6.5. 6.5 is not terrible. It is terrible. If a video game rated it a 6.5, you wouldn't probably buy it. So I know that it's not a 5, it's not a 4, but it's certainly not good. So some people think that when I say like 7, that's like high praise. A 7 is not high praise. If a movie was rated 7 out of 10 and you were with your boys, like, you guys want to go watch this movie? It's rated as 7 out of 10. You might be like, probably not, unless, something about it really appealed to me as a person. And we also have some good ones. We have Evasion, not super helpful. Uncertainty, not super helpful. But frost damage is great. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, I want to build the biggest frosty build in the next update, and you have not started scribing really at all, and you're a little worried that you're not going to get it because, you don't do a lot of daily quests, purchase this. It's going to be a lot of Telvar, but if you are probably the boat, if you're not doing daily quests and you haven't really interacted with scribing a whole lot, you're probably a PvPer. PvPers generally do have Telvar, so you probably will want to purchase this if you are a PvPer who has Telvar and is very bad at doing daily quests. That's for you. This is the advice for you if you're listening to that and you're like, that's me. Cavalier's Charge is actually also unironically good for PvP, but not very great. Like, I see people using it, but I think almost just because it's funny. But it is pretty easy to dodge. I think almost just because nobody was using it and people were like, this is pretty powerful. And some people started to use it, but it is very easy to read and maneuver around. But it is kind of a fun one. Next up, we have a returning thing, and that is Puncture's Lava Burst Fragment of the Ash. You get a really cool puncture style where you're shooting magma out of them. You can see up there at the top. Looks pretty cool. And Fragment of the Ash comes from Valken's Scoria of City of Ash 2, which I'll be honest, not a very hard dungeon. That may shock you, but it really isn't that high up there in terms of difficulty. And if you farm this and you're like, you want to get it, you're going to have to complete Sunsire at some point. Now, fragments are 100% drop rates. They're not guaranteed. I don't know why I didn't say that as they are guaranteed. That's a little bit of a loosey-goosey phrasing. I'm sorry. I'm trying to build out the word count here on this video for you. But overall, some great items. Ironically, both of them were scripts, which we rarely see. Flame damage for gold is essential, especially if you don't have it yet and if you do even just a moderate amount of daily quests, pick it up. If you're a PvPer, you may want to pick up Frost Damage. Frost Damage is probably going to see a higher uptick when subclassing comes out, because now you're not locked to being a Warden and a Frosty Boy. You can, experiment with all sorts of things. And two, you're going to see quite a few people start to subclass and scribe more, because these are both going to be base game features come June. So overall, those are the two key things. If you wanted to pick up some of the other stuff because you're like, ooh, Volenfell is pretty a long farm, and because it comes from a PvP more-esque mythic, maybe you buy it outright because, farming dungeons as a PvPer is like pulling teeth. But overall, those are the three big things that I would consider here for this weekend for you. Thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is leave a comments below, and like on the video, please. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed. We hit 30,000 subscribers. There'll be a celebration video at some point, but I don't know what to do. So if you have ideas, I'm still waiting for my code refill from ZeniMax. I'm kind of waiting for that to happen because it's been delayed a little bit. And the third thing is, look for hidden word be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to find and comment that word, you will win. Thank you guys one last time. Have a happy Tuesday, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.